Corey, thank you very much for joining me on this SimpleCoach interview. Appreciate you taking the time. Just so that everyone is aware, I'm calling you Corey because I was instructed to call you Corey and not Coach, and so I follow rules like many. So, Corey, thanks for joining. Really do appreciate you taking the time.
Likewise, I appreciate you having me.
All right, so you just became head coach at Muskingum in February. So let's just start with what's been your soccer history? How did you end up getting to be in the chair that you're sitting?
Well, it's been a bit of a winding path, but kind of starting backwards from where I am now. Spent the last 2 years at Ohio Wesleyan as an assistant coach, and had it was a great opportunity to really learn and grow and make mistakes and figure out who I was as a coach with Jay and Matt. They gave me a real opportunity to get into the college game because before that it was about 8 or so years in high school around the Columbus area, both as a head coach and as an assistant. So it's just been various levels, different roles within teams, but just kind of slowly been progressing towards where I am now, just as I've taken it one step at a time and figured out what I really want to make of a career in coaching and kind of go from there. So it's been winding. It's been involving a lot of jobs that weren't soccer, and a lot of things that really worked out, and a good balance between me and my family. So here we are.
So it wasn't, you weren't intentional. Like, there are guys who are intentional about, finish, graduate, I'm going to go become an assistant coach somewhere. You took a different trajectory. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought I'd be a terrible soccer coach when my playing days were over. And so, yeah, got out of it, moved away from Ohio, moved to Pittsburgh, got into a completely different field. And then when we moved back to Ohio to be closer to family, just kind of started as a volunteer type of thing at a high school, just slowly built in from there. But I'd say the actual intent of trying to make a career out of it really happened probably within the last 3 or 4 years.
And that's how you ended up at Ohio Wesleyan?
So I ended up at Ohio Wesleyan.
Yeah.
Just had kind of been talking to a few folks in coaching circles, and Matt Weiss at Ohio Wesleyan had reached out with an opportunity, and when you have a program like that that's right there, it's kind of hard to say no to.
Yeah. Probably learned from some of the best, right? And the program.
Oh,
that is,
absolutely.
yeah.
Not only the soccer and the technical tactical pieces of it, but just how to run a college program.
Yeah.
I think was a big piece of it. And I'll forever be grateful and appreciative of that.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to ask you the one question that I think, even going back to my day. So historically, Muskingum isn't necessarily known for their soccer, and so you're at Ohio Wesleyan. Makes deep runs into the NCAA's. Is always competing for the NCAC. It's a national championship under its belt. I don't want to say you were in a good spot and comfortable because, again, I'm just from the outside. But what was it about Muskingum that you thought this is a place that I want to start my head coaching career, or collegiate head coaching career?
No, that's a great question, and it was a good situation to be in to continue to learn and to grow. But that's kind of what this opportunity was again. Another opportunity to learn, to grow, and to challenge myself into what I think I'm capable of. And then when you really take a look into it, it had to be a really good situation to leave, and that doesn't always mean wins and losses. That means the right type of environment, and really the right type of atmosphere and resources and support to be able to create an environment for these guys where they can really challenge themselves. So when you take a look at the job opening that popped open here, because it's been a bit of a roller coaster the last 12 months, when the opportunity came about and really started talking to a few folks, that some of those requirements of what would be needed to make a jump were there. Really kind of kind of tested out and figured out what was going to be available here, and really made sense as soon as I stepped foot on campus. Just talking to the administration and other coaches around here, and kind of the vision of really blending an academic and athletic experience together for the total student experience is really something to be excited about.
I've spoken with Coach Gunderson in the past and had a whole series. It's like 5, 6 shows.
Oh, I've
Just
seen them; they're great.
yeah. Oh, thank you. I tried. It's just something different, and I'm a big fan of hers and sort of what she does, and because I much more in tune to somebody who wants to build something, and I think she's there, and I would throw you in that category. What? And I'm wondering this because I Muskingum's beautiful campus. I mean, you have great facilities, right? And you just opened that ginormous thing that I wasn't able to go into, unfortunately. You
Come on
have
back; we'll get you in.
yeah. I'll kick the door in next time. The you have a great soccer stadium now that you know a lot of folks in the OAC don't have. In my alma mater, Mount Union, it's one of the things that bothers me is that they haven't sort of said, okay, let's do something specifically for the soccer, even lacrosse teams, right? Like let's build. Instead, they throw you in the football stadium. I mean, is that from the outside again? Is that emblematic of Muskingum is making a commitment towards athletics, and then by extension is making a commitment to men's soccer to basically want more out of that part of this university? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely makes sense. And I'd say yes to really all of the above, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right when you kind of take a step and think about it with the university's commitment to athletics, right? That is, and when you can really tie it together, I'm actually, my office right here is in the Bullock Health and Wellness Complex, a $38
Nice.
million facility that
Yeah.
opened up in September, right? These are all things
It's
I have.
fantastic. Like
It's, it's
just for the folks who are watching, it sits on the opposite side of where the older gym is, right? Like the opposite side, and it's basically blended into the mountainside of the football stadium. So again, not having been in there, there's the windows. It was, I think the gym is there. It overlooks the stadium. It is a wonderful, wonderful place. But sorry to interrupt. But
Oh, hey, I appreciate it. And yeah, it is a tremendous space for us that we've already used with the soccer guys a few times, and will continue to use. But yeah, it's going to create just, a mountain of opportunities for us, and advantages as we just continue to further develop, because it's not only the athletics that are going to develop within here, it's,
mm-hmm.
an
Yeah,
exercise science and health and fitness
yeah,
curriculum, which I'm already, kind of knocking on the door and seeing how many more faculty members we can get in here, because that just means, hey,
yeah,
I can get my guys into our
yeah,
diagnostics hub in here maybe a little quicker, and figure out what some of the
mm-hmm.
issues are, and return
Yeah,
them to play a little quicker.
yeah,
But with the facilities, no, that's absolutely a part of it, right? Where I was going with that is President Hassler's big push was to fund this building, and find donors for without having to really kind of foot the bill with anyone else. So her commitment to find funding for this building, and to really kind of have a vision for the rest of the athletic department. And she works very well with Carrie Winters, our athletic director, who's got a great vision for where she wants to take not only soccer but every sport under her
mm-hmm.
watch.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, you take it up to the North Turf, and it's a great environment for a game. I can't wait
Yeah,
to have some games up here this fall. But it shows, an investment into not just us. It helps Danny in the women's
yeah,
program, and Lindsay and Alec in the lacrosse program, certainly. And then if football ever needs to get up there, that's just an additional space. It provides us the flexibility we need to
mm-hmm.
really be able to go anytime we need to. So it helps all of us. But then yeah, it certainly is a commitment into men's soccer, right? Because the
Yeah,
results maybe haven't been there, but now it's making sure that everything that is needed to find those results are there. So now
mm-hmm.
we've just got to be able to focus, and figure out how we as you said earlier, try to build this program a little bit.
Yeah. I think just from a recruiting standpoint, that sort of thing is really important, probably more important than what I think people realize, right? It's just sort of the general impression student athletes get stepping on campus to see, right? To see the emphasis and the focus in on, hey, we're willing, you know, commitment of dollars, I hate to reduce it down to, when you commit dollars to something, it's a sign of something, right? Like it's a sign of that commitment. And so seeing the dollars at the university, I mean, I think that's important. Right? I think it helps. It's a hook, right? Like, oh, the
Yeah,
great facilities.
certainly helps, right? And it's you know, New Concord's not the most booming metropolis there is in the state, but this gives the campus that's already
Yeah,
a beautiful area. It gives us just more of a community feel and
yeah,
more involvement that there opportunities for the university to interact with the rest of the community. And we get students in here, and then we find we've got great academic programs that can really complete the experience.
yeah. All right, this is a little bit of a. I told you I wasn't going to do anything controversial, but this is a little bit of a controversial
I'm
one.
on with it.
So, yeah. All right, so like I mentioned, and I can't say enough good things about Ohio Wesleyan. So you're at a level pretty rarefied air, right? Top 20, what have you. Great program. And now you're going to Muskingum. And I just wonder, are you, do you have an impression as to what is the difference between an Ohio Wesleyan battling Bishop soccer player versus a Muskingum soccer player right now? And I don't mean this in a bad way, right? Like, right? Ohio Wesleyan has a method, brings in players of a certain caliber, and I'm assuming some, and we'll talk a little bit about replicating a little bit of that. Like, do you already see some things where you're like, I have to start recruiting players that fit the Ohio Wesleyan mold a little bit more than
Yeah,
that?
you are getting into controversial, and let me get
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
no, no,
let me get the spotlight on you. Like,
right,
where
right.
were you?
Turn it up. No,
Yeah.
it's a really good question, and certainly I think from a certain lens, I've got to be able to view it from past experiences. But I think a big push for me has been able to kind of really force myself into taking a step back and observe what we have here,
Mm-hmm.
and really understand kind of what are some of the standards or some of the principles. And I think that's really kind of the difference. I don't want to tiptoe around your question. I want to make sure
Yeah.
I answer. I think that's the difference right now is that history, is that
Mm-hmm.
standard, right?
Yeah.
A big thing that I really have loved from
Mm-hmm.
standards that the
Yeah.
guys hold themselves to, right? And that trickles down to everything on the field and off the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, admittedly, that's just something that's been lacking here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the difference of being able to hold guys to a certain standard and then certainly hold them accountable to that standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's any fault of the guys on their own. Like I said,
No, yeah.
it's been
Yeah.
an up and down here for the last few years with the
Mm-hmm.
coaching staff. And I mean, no disrespect to it, but when you have that inconsistency, it's going to cause some problems.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't have just a smooth road of history and standards, like I said, then you might have some hiccups and you might have some bumps in the road of what you're really trying to get to. So that's what we're really trying to figure out right now, are what
Mm-hmm.
are those standards for us based on kind of the guys that are here and what we have and the history at Muskingum, and then maybe what standards need to raise a little bit, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
be
Yeah.
introduced to guys for the first time. So it's certainly, and I don't want to get ahead of myself or any questions you have, but it's certainly, there's always going to be a comparison, but there's going to make sure there's a line between what makes sense and what doesn't make sense to be
Yeah.
able to try to replicate or,
Mm-hmm.
try to introduce.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And like I said, I'm not trying to disparage any one or
Oh,
the other.
absolutely. No,
Yeah, like
I get it.
sometimes I find in my experience in talking to other coaches, it's sometimes that the players that you're just as an example, because in this case, right, like you're coming from Ohio Wesleyan, and then the Muskingum players have never been given the sorts of opportunity or structure, or and once they are, they sort of thrive, right? And so that was the only thing. Like I said, I'm not trying to disparage anyone.
Oh no, I certainly hear where you're coming from, and I appreciate it. And yeah, I think we're into kind of our third week of the non-traditional spring
Mm-hmm,
season, and can already see it in
mm-hmm.
kind of what we have in training sessions, and just even feedback from the guys of just how excited they are. Right, I'm
Yeah,
not trying to pat my own back here, but just
yeah,
how excited they are of the structure of a training session and being able to
mm-hmm.
progress from one activity to another, or connect it to
Yeah,
a theme of what we're trying to
yeah,
improve that day. Intense guys have commented on the intensity levels of training
mm-hmm,
sessions that we've had, and they're really excited about it, which
mm-hmm,
obviously gives me a level of excitement that as we keep ramping up here.
mm-hmm. All right, so this is, I think I got this right. Like Ohio Wesleyan, I mentioned the NCAC. You played at Ohio Dominican,
Ohio
NAIA?
Dominican, yep, we were
NAIA? Very
still
good.
NAIA.
Yeah, very good, right? Very good
Yep.
program.
Right. I think I'm getting old, so I can't really remember. But I think my last year we were transitioning to NCAA, or had
NCAA,
just
yeah,
begun
yeah,
the transition.
yeah.
But yeah, still 4 years of NAI.
Uh-huh. So let me ask you, like, do you have any? And I'm sure, I'm pretty sure Ohio Wesleyan has played OAC teams. Do you have any impressions so far of as to the OAC and competitive, and again, maybe through a lens of obviously comparing to where you were at, but just again, and you just got there, so I totally get if you're not, but
Oh, just got there, but I think that's a testament to the OAC is how strong Wesleyan's schedule is on a non-conference basis year in
mm-hmm.
and year out. And when you take a look at it, it's pretty heavy in the OAC.
It's yeah,
I kind of I'm chuckling and struggling for words because it's a gauntlet, right?
yeah,
It's an absolutely murderer's row of competitive programs and
yeah,
teams that are building, right? There are no easy games in the OAC. Even the
mm-hmm.
teams that might be struggling are going to find a way to make it competitive because of physicality or a
Mm-hmm.
certain way that they play. And then, you've certainly got the teams at the top. John Carroll, Ohio Northern had great seasons last year, and they've strung together several in a row.
Yeah,
Otterbein, Capital, teams like there. And then,
mm-hmm.
Wilmington certainly growing. And I don't mean disrespect if I'm leaving anybody out, but right, you think of those handful of teams right there,
Mm-hmm.
just that lead them, right? I've got some close connections in years
Mm-hmm.
of just knowing some of these guys and knowing who they are and what kind of programs they build. Nothing but admiration and respect for every program in this conference. And
Mm-hmm.
while I'm excited about it, I still take a look at it every now and again and think, I'm not sure I know what I got into.
Yeah, like, oh, did I want this? Uh, I've been saying for a while. I think the OAC is one of the not in a bad. It's hard to make comparisons between leagues and all that stuff, but I would say is one of the more underrated leagues out there, right? Because I think again, I think there's a lot of focus out to the on the East Coast and whatnot, but I think the OAC is every game is a bloodbath to one degree or another.
Yeah, no, I agree. Whether it's a physical game or just
Yep.
two teams that know each other so well,
Yep.
right? Which makes it
Yeah.
difficult to
Yeah.
gain an edge. But those are the games you want to be a part of, right? Both as a player and as a coach. So
Yeah.
again, that's what really gives me a high level of excitement as we get
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, you're definitely going into the competitive cauldron. That's sure. And as I say, look, the truth of the matter is iron sharpens iron. You're never going to get better if you play easy schedules. And so this is helpful, right, to build. Anyhow, okay. So aside from the Muskingum Coffee with Coach that you
Yep.
did, was that what it's called? I mean, I watch
Yep.
those things. Like I'm such a geek when it comes to those things. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
no,
look at that.
that's
That's
great.
so cool. I love those things. Um, what are some of the first things you've done from a soccer perspective since you've gotten there, and whether that's in the your spring trainings, sort of change things up, or sort of how you sort of incorporated yourself into the men's soccer program?
Yeah, no, so I think the most important thing for me was to kind of understand the guys that are already on campus, right? Because that's the core group of guys that we're going to lead into with the fall. So for me, it was really being hands-on and scheduling time with each of those guys. So within the first week, met with every guy within my office and just kind of, got to know them a little bit, their experiences so far, what they like about the group, what maybe they would see as some needed changes for us, and really just kind of absorb that information so I could gather up some key themes and figure out kind of where we are as a group and where we need to go from there. But from there, it's really been like I said, an observation. I want to kind of understand what we have here currently, what we do, how we operate on a day-to-day basis, and evaluate from there. And there's a few whiteboards on the wall behind me that are full of to-dos that I've begun prioritizing what needs to be fixed or changed right away
Mm-hmm.
versus what's going to take some time or time and money that I need to be a bit more patient on or go ask for some favors. Um, but it's really been trying to understand how these guys operate right now, and is it to a level we need to get to in all areas, right? Academically, athletically, socially. And then if there are things that we're doing that are already, up to a level I think they need to be, then there's no need to change anything or
Mm-hmm.
to impact these guys' lives. But if it's something we're falling short of, then we certainly need to, impact on it. So it's been taking the careful steps to make sure that we can really think through the steps of what we want to change so that it's not just messy going
Yeah.
through a process, that we can really be clear and effective. Because the big thing that I want to do is show these guys that if we're going to make a change, it's going to be for the better,
Mm-hmm.
and really give them the context of why we're doing something, not just because the new guy's coming in and just like he wants to change things on the office wall, he just wants to do things a certain way because he wants to do things a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ideally, it's
I
making sure
hate
that these
that.
guys.
I hate that, right? Like, hey, we're doing something not because it's good, but it's because it's Corey's way. Like what does that mean? Anyhow, sorry to
Nope, and
interrupt.
no, you're fine. I tend to ramble, so I appreciate it anyways. But
I love rambling.
no,
So,
when when I got here, I was very clear with these guys that I don't want to come in and make this my team. This is their team,
mm-hmm.
right? For me, it's providing, again, it's every time I say this, I can just hear Jay in the back of my head. But for me, it's providing the environment for these guys to thrive, right? So
Mm-hmm.
whatever makes them comfortable in it, as long as they're meeting the standards that I have for us, it's their team, and how we get to there is how we get there, and really making sure that they drive us.
Mm-hmm. All right, so again, you're coming from Ohio Wesleyan. I'm have First of all, have you laid out sort of these are your minimum expectations yet? Again, I know it's so hurried, like February is when you were brought on, so your time is very little, so I'd understand if not. But do they know already, like, if you're going to be a member of this program, these are the certain minimum expectations that I.
Yep. First, so right before the announcement, I had a chance to meet the guys and be introduced, but that wasn't the time to, lay down
Yeah,
the law or anything. I was,
yeah,
hi guys, I'm very excited to be here, shake some
yeah,
hands.
yeah,
And then met the guys, gave it about a week or so to really meet the guys and have some of those one-on-ones. And then about a week later, after I gathered up my thoughts of those, we had a true first team meeting,
yeah.
and within that really went through. They gave me a little bit of guff for it, but went too long in a meeting because I needed to really lay out what those standards were. They said,
Yeah,
"Oh, it was great, but it was just way too
really.
long, man. Shorten it up next time." But again, appreciate that feedback. But no, really laid out for them, guys.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't rules that we have, right? These are standards that we've got to live by, and it doesn't just mean show up to training at a certain time. It means that when you go to class, you make a good first impression.
Mm-hmm.
That you treat your professors the same way that you treat anyone on the coaching staff, or
Mm-hmm.
that every member of the athletic training staff is an extension of our coaching staff, and you treat them
Mm-hmm.
with respect. So there's still a lot of areas I think we've got to hit, but just we'll get there
Yeah,
as
yeah,
the
yeah,
appropriate time comes. But no,
yeah,
we certainly laid out for these guys, and it's not difficult, right? It's make good decisions with whatever it
Yeah.
is you're doing. Be a good
Yeah.
person, make a good decision, and more often than not, you're going to find
Yeah.
yourself in a good situation.
Can I ask you, like, it, the from a coaching perspective, where you were brought on board, or do the players ask you, are you going to be around for a while because they had the I forget the coach from last year who was just there for a year, and there hasn't been this coaching consistency. Uh,
Yeah, no, it's certainly been a question
yeah.
from the interview process all the way through guys and just about
Mm-hmm.
anybody that I talk to about it. I need to be careful with myself because it's the same kind of if I have any kind of philosophy in life, it's
Mm-hmm.
honestly take it one step at a time and
Mm-hmm.
really just kind of see where wind takes you.
Mm-hmm.
But the full intent is to be here to see through this project, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a find success and move on from it.
Right.
It's the I think the challenge in here is really in the build, and the build doesn't stop when
Yeah.
you find the first bit of success,
Success.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you find success, and success isn't results to me. It's building the winning habits for guys on and
Yeah.
off the field,
Yeah.
and making sure that our program reflects our
Mm-hmm.
university and community strongly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when you start to feel that success, and then you can double down with sustainable habits behind it, and really start to see that the program has roots to it.
Mm-hmm.
So how long that takes, I'm not sure, but that's what we're here for,
Mm-hmm.
right? If it's a few years, if it's a few more years than that, again, I don't want to put myself into a box of saying I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely here for X amount of years, but my full commitment is to
Mm-hmm.
Muskingum and the men's soccer program, and
Yeah.
building this the right way.
Yeah. That was a little bit of a controversial question. I thought I'd.
It is.
Yeah.
You said no controversial. And I
I
keep
know.
going.
I'm such a liar.
No,
Hey,
you're fine. But like I said, it's you never know what's going to happen. But
no,
the
I get
full
that. I
intent
get that.
is to
Yeah.
make sure that
Mm-hmm.
this program, like you said, the university is great. The resources and everything
Mm-hmm.
around it are perfect. The only thing that's missing is the balance and commitment behind
Yeah.
it with the soccer.
Yeah.
So we've got to figure that out.
Yeah. So that leads me to the next question. Like, how big of a deal is it for you over the next year, 2 years, again, to build a culture? You talked about winning attitude and some of those things, but I mean, is it part of building this cultural structure that even as you bring new guys in and players leave, like they start to feel like they're getting into something special?
It's probably more along the lines of the goal that we're looking
Mm-hmm.
for right now than wins and losses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Certainly the overarching theme of playing the game is to win it, and that's certainly what we're going to try to put ourselves in position to do every time. But the focus for me, both on and off the field, is exactly like you said. It's making sure that this becomes a program where guys feel a connection to it beyond just putting on a jersey. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an excitement to get onto campus. It's an excitement to be here for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just had our alumni game this past weekend, and it was great to meet guys that come back and have said, "Hey, we love being here. We love seeing each other again. We just wish there was a bit of a stronger connection between
Mm-hmm.
the past and the present,
Yeah,
right?"
yeah,
And that's really kind of a focus for us. But that's not just a light switch, right? There are
yeah,
so many different pieces of this program from day to day to big picture kind of things that we need to be patient with.
yeah,
And we need to make sure that we're not pressing issues that shouldn't be taken care of, that we're addressing anything from, how these guys are equipped with training kits and how
yeah,
we logistically take care of that stuff to, like you said, the how we handle our business, how we approach
yeah,
preparation, how we approach the mental side of this, how we approach our academic side and
yeah,
responsibility that we have. So it's really going to be a focus on just about everything we do and figure out, is this the right way to do something? And there's always going to be multiple right ways, but we figure out in that moment for us as a group or for us as that individual, what's the best for us
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out doing things the right way. If
Mm-hmm.
we win games as a result of that, that's always the goal and the hope. Got to make sure these guys know that something not soccer for the next 40 or so years.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make sure that they've got the toolkit now to
Mm-hmm.
figure it out? And
Yeah.
then hopefully it means a lot of wins for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when we get there is honestly when we get there. I'm much more focused on little pieces today.
Yeah. I think the I think if you just focus and I'm not saying you, right? It's obviously not, but I think if you focus on wins, right? Just winning, that's very transitory, right? Like you don't become, again, just because of where you come, it's not a comparison. You don't become Ohio Wesleyan because all you're concerned about is winning, right? You become Ohio Wesleyan because you've done all of this work and you've built this structure that, like I said, players know how, they know the weight of responsibility it is to be an Ohio Wesleyan player. And that sort of generates the momentum that leads to the winning that makes you become an Ohio Wesleyan. Um, Anyhow, that's just a thought. And I would just say another thing that I think is it's captured it for me when I think about this sort of thing is, I'd had the chance to talk to early on Brandon Bianco after the season at Denison. Great coach, great guy. Um, I asked him, I'm like, holy smokes, like, what do you think as an alum? What do you think about what was going on at Ohio Wesleyan, where you went the first four or the first 6 games without a win? I'm like, that's pretty shocking. And I was like, what do you think was said? What do you think was done? And he just like that just said, nothing had to be said, nothing had to be done. They just had to get back to work. And I thought, whatever Jay has done, that is the idea. That's what becomes Ohio Wesleyan. It's not the wins, like I said. It's all of this structure that the guys know intuitively. This is what we have to do. And I think, anyhow.
That and I won't go too long on this one, but that was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen a coach do. Yeah, and it had nothing to do with soccer, like you said. 4-2. And Matt and I are sitting there in the office panicking every day, right? What do we do? How do we fix this? What's
Mm-hmm.
happening? And we're the ones panicking.
Mm-hmm.
And Jay was really that model of, yeah, nothing needs to change. We need to continue to plug away and figure out, right, when you're winning, that's when you can figure out maybe something changes for the
Yeah.
better or there's a more efficient way. But when things aren't going well, it's stay to tried and true and put your work in. And I think if anything, our focus went more to things that weren't related to soccer, making sure
Mm-hmm.
that guys were focused on, their responsibilities for preparation of training, making sure that
Mm-hmm.
the equipment had air, the balls had air in them,
Yeah.
that we had what we needed for that day, the water was taken out, that they'd seen the trainer that day,
Yeah.
right? It went more to a focus on take care of those things, and then soccer is soccer, and it'll take care of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Remarkable. I think it's one of the great of 2022. I think that whole thing was, and ultimately where he ended up, right? Like, just
Yep.
remarkable story. Okay, so speaking of, like, this could be about Jay, but like, who do you think influenced you the most as the coach that you want to be?
Oh man. See, that's where you get into like the Frankenstein piece. You'd want to take pieces of certain coaches,
Yeah.
right? Because certainly don't want to just mirror a certain coach
Mm-hmm.
because come on, with soccer coaches, we're tough enough to deal with. You don't need two versions of the same guy. No, Jay's certainly a big influence and for very obvious reasons, so we don't need to get into,
Yeah.
but just given me the opportunity and then
Mm-hmm.
really given me the empowerment to kind of learn for myself and really
Mm-hmm.
be a part of it. But just the way that Jay approaches, the players and the guys, as like you said, leaving them accountable to make decisions, but empowering the team to really shape it themselves, and then being the guide for them. being the support them. But there's certainly coaches along the way. It's going to be interesting because jumping into the OAC, but one of the guys that has been really an impact on me since I was probably 8 years old is Alan Yost at Capital. Right, we're both guys from Pataskala that have grown up together, and when I was at ODU, Alan came in as an assistant coach, and now we work together on the club side and have really just grown through. And as I've taken each step, Alan's really been along the way to give advice, has been a great reference. I think I owe him a few favors for the references he's put in for me, but just the way that he connects with guys as well, right? I think any influence on me and a coach is going to really reflect back to how somebody relates to guys, right? So with Jay, it's really that empowerment. With Alan, it's how he's able to connect with guys to know that, hey, he's going to get into you a little bit, but he's going to get the most out of guys, and talk to any player and they love Alan. Right, but then there's guys that I've played for, right? Eric Nichols and Willie Merrick at ODU, who Willie's still there, and Eric's now at Bowling Green. Just their approach to kind of preparation of a game and practices have really been influences on me. So there's a million different guys, right? But when you really start thinking about it, it's who are the guys that really connect with people, and who are the guys that really prepare. Soccer coaches, that's where you've really got to find your edge, is how prepared are you, how organized are you, how adaptable are you to change in the moment. So those are all guys that have provided.
Okay. So if you were to snap your fingers, explain to how you would want Muskingum to play.
Still organized, just together as one, right? I'm not too committed to an attacking style, defending style. Just whatever we do, it's got to be together, so that a group knows that they are coming up against a group that's going to be hard to break down, right? When we start to figure out that it's a group of 11 that stays connected in everything we do, then we can really solve the problems that we have for ourselves on the field together. So when the fingers snap and it's magic, you're going to hear guys just in sync with each other, just 11 voices all together as one, right? We might know everyone's aligned with what movement's happening, but we're still communicating it outwardly, so the guys are on the same page. Everyone knows everyone's role, so that there's no confusion, and from there we just get after it. How we're going to play, I have no idea. I still got to see these guys play. We're going to bring in a group of freshmen that are going to change what we do, I think, a little bit. But we want to play soccer, right? I definitely don't want to be a group that just, hey, let's be as direct as we can and hope for the best, right? We'll certainly play how we need to with certain opponents, but let's play some soccer. Let's have some fun with it.
Yeah. What are your plans / objectives for this spring? Is it just to get to know, I don't want to say, like, what you have available to you? Is that sort of the main objective?
Yeah, no, there's no sugarcoating it. I'm a fairly blunt guy when it comes down to it, and that's what it is. We've got to figure out what we have, and we've got to figure out guys that play certain roles. Is that the right role for them, right? Do I have guys in attacking roles that are defenders, right? Do I have the right pieces in leadership roles, and really trying to identify that? So for me, it's not necessarily having a set outcome goal that we're having out of the spring, right? Andy Zidron and Worcester and company are coming down at the end of the month, and I can't wait, right? Andy's one of the great guys in college soccer coaching. I know you've had him on here, and that was one of the great lessons. And Andy's always a guy I can lean on for some really good advice. But they're coming down, and hopefully we've put it together well enough for a spring game to kind of see where we are heading into the summer and fall. But no, we're just really making sure that, like I said, the standards that we have are reflected in just about everything that we do. We did our 8th session this morning, and I've told the guys just about at every one of them, there's very rarely the feedback I have for them is soccer related as much as it is habits, right? What are
Mm,
we doing when we transition from one activity to another? What are we doing in between repetitions, right? Are we talking to each other kind of things? What is our attitude towards training? What is
mm.
our positivity, right? Or body language towards each other? So for me, it's much more about this spring figuring out how we meet our standards.
Um, I'm a big fan of Andy's. I think he's such a great guy. Great guys, great understanding of the game, and has a high expectation of his players beyond the field. Right, and I think that's super positive. Um,
And that's what you need, right?
yeah,
It's another example of, especially within Division 3 soccer, right?
yeah,
A coach has to be a guy that makes sure that guys are accountable for the academic side of their
yeah,
house,
yeah,
right? And Andy is certainly one of those guys, and he does it in such a supporting and
yeah.
motivational way. It's almost got me ready to enroll back in college.
I, that's what I'm doing. I'm still
There you
looking for
go.
a team. I'm still looking for a team. Muskingum could,
Come on in. You've already got the hat. You might as well
you
come in.
know, like I'm starting to do the fitness, so gotta watch out. Um, what day is your scrimmage? May I ask?
April 22nd,
That's a
I think
Saturday.
the Saturday, I think
Yeah.
4 o'clock is the planned kickoff that
All
we've got.
right.
Last time Andy and I talked about it.
Okay. I'm gonna keep that on my calendar. Um, all right. Just a couple more questions. And I'll let you get on with your day, and you can wander around that great facility that your office is in now. What does your recruiting class look like? Was it baked this year going into the fall? Do you have some? Were you able to influence? Are you able to influence at all? Do you have some guys that you are bringing in, or like I said, are there players that are coming in already that were recruited or through the process already?
Yeah, little bit of a mix of both, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously been probably the most difficult piece of this year is really jumping in February and trying to impact a recruiting
Yeah.
class coming in the fall, right? But that's where I give a lot of credit to John Bloom, who came in
Mm-hmm.
and really stabilized in some chaos this past year.
Mm-hmm.
And then Damon, the assistant coach, Damon spent 4 years here playing and now his
Mm-hmm.
last 2 years as an assistant coach. And
Mm-hmm.
really had a heavy responsibility laid on him with coaching changes, and he did a great job of staying connected with guys,
Mm-hmm.
prospective athletes for us. To kind of answer it, it was a little bit of a mixed bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
John and Damon did a really good job with a group of guys to get them as far along as they could with in committing without actually being able to pull the trigger because
Mm-hmm.
it's really difficult for a kid to
Yeah.
jump into a situation where maybe they
Yeah.
don't know who the coach is or what's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen, and
Yeah.
it's fair to those guys because if they have a certain expectation of a coach and someone comes in that's not going to be it, then they
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be in that situation, so it's
Mm-hmm.
fair. But those guys, once and I'm not saying it's me, it probably could have been anybody. But once someone was named, we had a handful of guys, sign on and
Mm-hmm.
give their commitment to us. Sign-on's obviously the wrong word to say in Division 3 soccer, but we've got a few
Mm-hmm.
guys. We've got a few guys in with us just from there, right? That I take no claim to, other than saying, "Hi, I'm the head coach. Would you like to come to Muskingum?" But
Mm-hmm.
those are John and Damon's work. But we have been able to impact, and we've got a few guys that have come in. I'd say really, initializing a conversation since I've started.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a heavy focus has been. If I'm not with these guys or trying to meet a faculty member here and there, it's being on the phones and figuring
Mm-hmm.
out who we can impact. So we've got a few guys that have come in. So I think we've got a fairly decent sized class, but there's certainly room. I know we're getting into crunch time a little bit, but certainly room for 23 as we start to kind of turn eyes to
Mm-hmm.
24 and beyond.
All right. So, last question for you. What do you do you have any early goals for the fall? Have you thought that far ahead yet, or
Not so much other than knowing that it's coming quicker than I think it
yeah,
is.
no
Right?
kidding, yeah.
I think it's September 1st at Carnegie Mellon is going to come way too fast, but
Yeah.
really looking forward to seeing Brandon and his group. No, right, and I think that's admittedly me holding back a little bit
Hmm.
and wanting to be kind of consistent with what I'm putting out to the guys of really wanting to make sure that we are focused on taking the first step of our standards and then
Hmm.
the next step of building upon those. So goals for the fall are really to make sure that when guys come back in the middle of August, there's really little work to be done in
Hmm.
soft skills, right, of
Yeah.
understanding what we expect of these guys, right?
Yeah.
So is it get to an OAC tournament, have a certain number of wins? I think that'd be irresponsible of me, right?
Hmm.
As much as it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
making sure that when guys come back, they know what we want from them
Hmm.
minute one and go from there.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wasn't the last. The last question is: did you move to Concord?
I did not. I have I grew up east side of Columbus
Uh
most of
huh.
my life, bounced between east, Pataskala and Pittsburgh.
Right.
But I have been in Pickerington for the last
Years.
12 years now,
Uh huh.
and still there. So it's
How long of a commute is that?
just over an hour, right?
Oh
But
wow.
I'm,
Okay.
I'm I'm reaching an age where, admittedly, audiobooks and things like that are starting to
Hey.
become very appealing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm hooked into that. Like I don't listen to music anymore very except on the weekends I try to force myself. But
there's every now and again, right? Driving here at 4 o'clock in the morning for a 6 a.m.
yeah.
Wednesday session might be some different music, but
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't spend some of that time in the commute listening to this podcast. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh, you are my favorite soccer coach in Division 3 for having said
hey,
that.
I'll tell you, the group of guys that are around here in D3 soccer, trust me, we appreciate this show between
Thank
the
you.
coaches you
Thank
bring
you.
on and just the work you do to kind of highlight what we do is certainly
Thank you.
appreciated. So
Yeah.
trust me, I think more guys are seeing what you do than you think.
Oh, thank you. That's good to know. That's good to. I'm a fan. Like the Ohio coaches, Joe at Marietta. What a great guy. Couldn't be more gracious. Jay, obviously. Dayon, Chris. Like it's all those guys are just. I'll tell you if there's
Say Corey Bucher at Wilmington, but we don't really
Yeah,
we don't
yeah,
really like
Corey. No,
mention
I
that.
got
So
to because yeah, what a great guy. Another great, fantastic guy.
you're right.
It's
There's something about
amazing.
Ohio coaches.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, and probably the one thing in doing all this craziness, which we got to talk. I know you said you didn't kick me in the head, but like that, it is the one thing that sort of dawned on me is the quality of people that are in the Division 3 ranks as soccer coaches, yourself included. Like I'm always not only just great people, but also like great soccer minds, right? That's why I sort of ask these like really nuanced questions because I want to see sort of the thinking of it, and I'm just amazed by it. Like we're in better hands than people realize. So
And that's quite honestly, what gives me the draw to D3 soccer is
yeah,
exactly that. Are very well-rounded individuals
yeah,
that are leading people to be like-minded in a sense in work ethic and
yeah,
habits, but then also, the guys that I know in D3 soccer are also guys that are really encouraging, student athletes to figure out life for themselves. And,
yeah,
I think that makes everyone better when guys are in an environment like that.
yeah. Agreed. All right, Coach. Excuse me, Corey. Thank you.
No problem. I
Uh,
appreciate it very much.
really do appreciate you taking the time and wishing you all the success. I will be following. We'll do some more maybe just before the fall. We'll hook up again, and if there's anything you need from me, don't hesitate to give a shout.
Same to you. I appreciate the time and keep putting these out. These are great, and let me know if you need anything.
All right, we'll do. Thank you. If you like this show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also find me on anti-social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks. This is a message from my Chief Marketing Officer. I think this keeps him happy.